a brand, they tend to be that brand. So if you're a Chevron, you're definitely, they only have branded stations. But in other cases, you're not always 100% sure. Arco, USA, some of these, they operate with different gas. However, generally, yes, if a branded station is getting gas, like the mobile station's getting gas or a Chevron station's getting gas, they are generally charged the same amount by the refiner. However, there's something called zone pricing. So what you're talking about is in Beverly Hills, there's a station that's always $1 more.
Yeah,
and because people will pay it there. Now, the refiner's not charging the station that much more, and sometimes there are company stations, and some of these stations are actually owned by the refiner, operated by the refiner, they make a killing. And sometimes the high-dollar stations are often company stations. There is no station owner. The money goes right back to the refiner.
Okay, we got to take a break. We also got to do something else, but we'll talk more about refinery profits, which I'm sure will annoy a lot of other people, too. We have a statement from the Western States Petroleum Association. We contacted them, let them know that Jamie was going to be with us. And here's their statement. Over the past decade, state and regional agencies have promulgated a long list of new regulations that have increased the isolation and uniqueness of California's fuel markets. And these factors should be thoroughly and comprehensively analyzed to better understand their effect on fuel markets and fuel costs in California. And that's from the, it is important also to consider and take into account the contributing factors that influence our state's fuel markets. And that's from the president. There we go. There's even more. Better understanding and greater awareness can only lead to useful dialogue and sensible energy solutions. And I know that that's the end of her statement. Again, that's from the president of the Western States Petroleum Association. Jamie is anxious to respond to that, but we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Building the only truck with the best fuel economy. An award-winning engine. And a 9,200-pound towing capacity takes guts. Overcoming any obstacle, that's the glory. Get a great deal on the trucks that give you both during Ram Truck Month. Trade in and get 0% APR for up to $11,500 in total values on the 2016 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab during Ram Truck Month.
I was working in fast food and I wanted to do something better. So I decided to come to UEI to get my medical assistant diploma. Since I was 14, I wanted to work in the medical field because my grandma from Mexico, she was really sick. I chose UEI because they care from the moment that you enroll to the moment you graduate, and they help you find a job. I got my diploma and now I'm a medical assistant. I am proud of myself. It makes me feel good.
Call 877-285-4165 today.
Hi, I'm Bob from Starline. To your right is the legendary corner of Hollywood and Vine, cruising down Sunset Boulevard. Up next, Norm's Restaurant, home of the famous Bigger, Better Breakfast. Hickory smoked bacon, link sausage, ham, fresh eggs, hash browns, and 2 hotcakes. Norm's Bigger, Better Breakfast, only $6.59.
Where's Bob? Still on the bus?
Norm's is SoCal. Norm's Restaurants, where life happens 24/7. I'm gonna make you jealous, 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 jealous.
The TLX from Acura. Visit SoCalAcuraDealers.com for attractive offers on the TLX.
I'm gonna make you.
Call me Penguin. Failure is not an option. I am powerful. I am vicious. I am not a man to be trifled with. I'm king of Gotham. I'm not a criminal, you know. I'm just insane.
Monday at 8 on Fox 11.
This is Midday Sunday. We're talking about gas prices, specifically the increase that's going into effect over this weekend. Jamie Court, president of Consumer Watchdog, is with us. So you started to talk about the profits that the refiners, the oil companies are making.
Yeah, not every oil refiner reports their profits, but Tesoro, which is the second largest refiner, does. And that report, and Tesoro reported the biggest oil refining profit off gasoline in California ever during the last year, $1.9 billion. Valero, fourth largest refiner reports, had its biggest profits ever. And Chevron, which is the largest refiner, reports countrywide refining profits, had its best year ever, over $3 billion, and half of its refining is done in California, even though it doesn't do California-specific refining. So we know the oil refiners are looking at California like an ATM. And when a refinery's not down, so they can charge more gas, they're refusing to import enough gas, and when there's enough gas on the market, they use this pricing strategy we've talked about, where they use the price lever at their branded stations to be literally, 30, 40, in some cases 50 cents higher than what they're dumping the fuel at the real price to the Costco's in the unbranded market. And we presented this as early as last summer to the Attorney General, no word. We presented to the California Energy Commission and the Petroleum Market Advisory Committee, and actually there's going to be a meeting about some new recommendations for more transparency and sunlight in the market to combat some of the manipulations we've seen, because it's not clear they're illegal. They may be illegal, but it is clear they're driving up our fuel prices to unreasonable levels compared to the rest of the country. Because what we're not talking about is crude oil is at under $40 a barrel. So gasoline should really be at or below $2 in the state. There's no reason we should be paying any more than $2. And as I said, based on the wholesale market for gasoline, a few days ago, we could have sold gasoline at a gas station at a break-even price of $1.45. And suddenly the oil refiners changed the rules of the game.
Okay, we're going to talk about robot cars, but before we get to that, when you talk about those three refineries, we've got the Exxon. We've got the Exxon facility.
Torrance down,
so that's been down for about 14 months. Don't they deserve to maybe jack up the prices, maybe have a little bigger profit margin because they've been losing money for all this time?
I've been corresponding a lot with Exxon, which is great because Exxon hasn't answered the legislature and it hasn't really answered regulators, but they're writing to us because we did a report last month that found that when Torrance went down, Exxon, according to the State Lands Commission record, didn't import very much gasoline. We lost a year of production at a refinery that had 20% of the supply in Southern California, and we found they only imported 3 days' worth of that lost production when it was down almost all year. And we asked why, and we found that there was one flagship capable of carrying gasoline from a refinery in Singapore.
This is the MIA ship?
This is the MIA ship, and it was called the SR Sea River American Prospect, and it was sitting, we found it through GPS, in Singapore for 70 days on a 140-day voyage. Exxon claims it was in dry dock, getting fixed. Well, that's very possible, but we also found it moving around Singapore for many of those days. They claim that was part of the maintenance process, and they claim that this ship came to California, which it did, loaded with fuel, and then went to Florida because it services the Gulf, not California, and it dumped the fuel in Florida. But the larger point, because this is a metaphor, is that Exxon did not import gasoline to make up for its lost supply sufficient to meet lost inventory. Instead, it either bought from its competitors or used their refineries. It actually, we have it bringing crude oil to Tesoro, its competitor, to make, and gas oil to its competitor, to make gasoline at those refineries. So if you're using your competitor's refining capacity or exchanging fuel with them, or in the last ditch effort buying on the spot market, which is more expensive, and then using that to service your contracts and fulfill your obligations, you're taking supplies away from very limited inventory and drawing it down, and that keeps the price artificially high. Whereas if you're making gas in Singapore and bringing it here all the time, you're keeping inventories at a level where prices aren't a buck over the rest of the nation, and your profits aren't high. So our big problem with Exxon was, instead of importing fuel in quantity sufficient to make up for its lost production or somewhere near it, and this is a big supply of gas, it was out for a year. It wasn't honest about how long this refinery was going to be out so anyone else can import. And at the same time, it wasn't bringing in supplies to fulfill its contracts. It was taking from what existed in the market or using capacity in the market, refining capacity, to make product for the market rather than bringing it in from elsewhere.
Wow. Okay, robot cars. On the consumerwatchdog.org site, you've got a lot of stuff there about robot cars.
Well, we have no problem with robot cars as long as they're safe and they're protect our privacy, but, there are different ways of developing them. We think semi-automation can save a lot of lives, automatic collision avoidance or automatic braking. But what Google wants to do is develop a car, a first generation of car, and test it, that is fully autonomous and doesn't have the ability for a human being to take over. No steering